the next video tutorial on C programming for beginners. And in the last video I have shown you what is a function and how we can call function from our main function, right? And how we can declare a simple function like this. Okay, now in this video I'm going to show you how to declare and use a function which takes parameters or arguments. So suppose we want to make a function which adds two values and prints the sum. Okay, so what we are going to do is, here we will declare a function which returns nothing, so we will write void and then the name of the function. You can name it as sum or add, whatever you find appropriate for your program. Okay, I will name it as sum. And now, because we want to pass two numbers which we can sum, we will pass them as an argument for a function. So how to pass an argument? In these two brackets, we will give int the type of the argument first, and then we will give the name of the argument, for example a. And in a similar way we can pass the second argument, int b. And you can pass any number of argument in the function, for example int c, int d, and so on. But right now we want to just add two numbers, so we will pass only two arguments, right? And then we will just give two curly braces here, not this one but this one. And now what we want to do from this function, we want to add these two functions and pass it into other variable. For example, we will name it as sum, which will hold the sum of our two argument, which is a and b. So we will just do a plus b, and now we want to print the sum, so we will just write print f, and inside this we will just write sum is equal to percentage d comma sum. Okay, and now and whenever you want to add these two numbers, you can just call the sum function inside your main function here. So just call it, and for example you want to add two numbers. For example, you want to add 50 and 60, so we will just write 50 comma 60, because this sum function takes two arguments, one is a and one is b. So you can pass 50 as a and 60 as b here, right? And what will this will do? So this sum function will replace a by 50 and b by 60, and then in here this a plus b will be 50 plus 60, and it will transfer the sum to this sum variable, and then this sum will be printed here. So let's try to run the program first, and it prints 110, which is true. In a similar way, you can call this function multiple times. For example, you want to get the sum multiple times. Let's give /n here to change the line, and this time we want to add 100 or 1000 plus 500. In here we want to add 111 and 222, and in here we want to add 123 and 4 5 6, for example, and we want to print the sum of all these, this and this. Run the program and it will give you the sum 110, 1500, which is the sum of these two numbers, 33 or 333, which is the sum of these two numbers, and 596, which is sum of these two numbers, right? Let me change the slash to backslash, because it will just change the line like this. and run the program once again, and now it will change the line. 110, 1500, 333 and 579, which is the addition of first sum, second sum, third sum and fourth sum, like this. And you can call your function multiple times. Now for example, you want that user should define these two values at runtime. What we can do is we can declare two numbers, x comma y, two integers which are, and then we will ask the user to give these two numbers. So we will printf and we will write please enter two numbers, okay, and then /n to change the line, and then we will just say printf number one and change the line once again, and then we will use scanf, which we use to take input, right? So we will write scanf and then in the bracket %d and then comma and then this symbol to take integer, this AND symbol, right? And then value of x, which will be our first number, and in the same way we will pass the second number, which is y. So printf number 2, this is number 2. I'll give space so we can see it better, and the second time we will pass or scan y. So x is this one and y is this one. We are scanning two numbers, and now we will pass these x and y sum as a first argument and second argument for this sum function. And what will this do? Now when we run the program, we will run the program first, and now the program asks for two numbers. So it says please enter two numbers, number 1, so we will give number 1, for example 6458, this is the number 1, and press enter, and now it says number 2, so we will give second number 1025, for example, and when we press enter we will see sum is equal to 7483, which is the sum of the above two numbers, right? So in this way we can ask the user to give two numbers, and we can make the sum of these two numbers and print it on the screen, right? So these are called function with argument, and arguments is this one, argument 1, argument 2, and in the same way you can pass any number of argument to a function, and you can call your function inside your main program with those arguments, right? So I hope you have understood the basic concept of functions with arguments or functions with parameter. Hello guys, welcome once again. In the last two videos I have been showing you how to use functions in C, and in the last video I have shown you how to use a function with arguments or parameters. Now in this video I'm going to show you how you can use function to return some value, right? So till now we have been writing functions like this with a void, but from any function you can return some value which can be of any type, for example integer, double, character or string or anything. So let's see how we can use a function to return a value. Now for example we want to make a function which gives us the product of something. This example I have shown you last time, if you remember, and what I was doing in this function is I was asking the user to enter two values. So it says please enter two values, number 1, and I scan first number and I scanned second number, and then I passed these two numbers to this function. Now let's say we want to make a function which gives us the value or product of something, and then we want to process this number. So we will make a new function here to return some value. So for example, we want to make a function which gives us the multiplication of two numbers or product of two numbers. So and it will return something. So what we are going to do, we are going to write first of all return value. Earlier we used to write here void because we were not returning anything, but this time we will return some integer from the function. That's why we are writing int here, right? And then write the name of the function, for example product. This is the name of the function, and what this will do, it will take two argument, int a comma int b, and it's going to give us the result as a product of these two numbers. So in order to return some value, for example product of these two numbers, we use a keyword called return. Okay, and because we want to return product of a and b, we can write a asterisk b, right? So we can return the product of a and b, and what this basically mean is this function will take two parameters a and b, and then in here it will make the product of these two numbers a and b, and then it will return this number as an integer, right? And then we can use this number for doing some other mathematical stuff or anything else. So for calling this function, we can call it just by its name, and because we have the code from the last time in which we have declared two numbers and we were asking user to enter two numbers, this is really basic. So by now you may have known what this code is doing. It's just taking two values from the user, and then we will pass these two values x comma y to our product function, right? And then this x comma y will be replaced here in the place of a and b, and it will give multiply these two numbers, and then it will return the product as an integer. So because it's going to return our product, we will define an integer, for example int prod. So this integer we will use, integer variable we will use to store the product which will be returned by this product function, right? So product or prod is equal to product, because this function is going to return something as an integer, and we will store this integer which this function is going to return in this variable, right? And then we can print the value of printf, and then we can print product is equal to %d comma prod, which is this one, this variable, right? And let's see what happens when we compile our program. I will just make it a little bit smaller so that we can see all our program. I will run the program now, and it's saying something. Let's see what's the error. And the error here is undefined reference to printf. So this should be p small, right? Run the program, and it says enter first number, for example 20. I press enter, enter second number, for example 30, and when I press enter, it gives us the product of these two numbers, which is 600, right? And what this has basically done, we have given two numbers, x is equal to 20, y is equal to 30. So now x is equal to 20, which is replaced here, and y is equal to 30, which is replaced here. So 20 and 30 is passed to this function, and this goes here. Then it will multiply 20 and 30, and then it will return the result into this variable which we can store. Okay, in a simple simple usage, if you don't understand still what this is doing, then what we can do is we can directly pass two values. For example, 10 and 60, for example. I'm taking simple values so that you can understand. So this is basically 10 and 20 we have passed to this function. Because this function takes integer, so we need to pass only integers here, right? So 10 will be replaced here at the place of a, and 60 will be replaced here at the place of b. Now 10 will be multiplied by 60, and then it will be returned, and this value we can store it in another variable, for example this variable, which we can use for something. Or for example, if you want to use this function in or this variable for some other use, so what we want to do is, for example, a result is equal to, and then do %d, and what we want to do is whatever product we are getting from our product function, we want to add 10 to it and then show the result. Okay, so I will call product, and let's delete this thing for now, and we will make it more simple. So what we are going to do is we are going to call this function called product, and we will pass two values. For example, we pass this time 5 and 5 once again. So 5 into 5 is 25, right? This is a simple parameter I'm giving so that we know the result. So 5 into 5 is 25, which will be returned by this product, and we can add 10 to it, and the result will be 35, right? So let's try and run the program. It says result is equal to 35. So you can use this function which returns integer value as a parameter which you can do arithmetic operation on this parameter or on this function also. So in this way you can use function which returns value. Okay, and don't forget to use this return keyword whenever you are returning anything.